in all the years of Justin and I who are here tonight, we'll, I guess, talk about that in a second. We've been covering soccer at various levels of you know, professional, obviously, but like the Riverhounds and Bethlehem Steel were never, I don't know, the most dynamic teams in the world or anything like that. Which is to say, it was always kind of nice because we got to talk about the Union, and it was always, oh, there's attacking and there's goals and Julian Carranza and Daniel Gazdag, and look at all these people. And now, man, I don't know. I feel like we could just talk about like anything else, like Westchester United or something, for 30 minutes and be happier. Take your pick. Hi, it's Views from the Bridge, your third favorite, we're working our way back up, baby, podcast about the Philadelphia Union. And honestly, if you stop listening to anything about the Union at this point, can we blame you? No. Because, what does anyone truly that is covering or attempting to cover this team have to say yet that hasn't been said ad nauseum for the last month now? Then here we are, trying to reinvent the wheel one episode at a time until the team stops being terrible or get really tired of doing this. I'm not sure. I don't know. It's a shame we like each other, I guess, is what I'll lead with. Justin, how are you?
I'm doing fine. I mean, other than when it comes to this team, but other than that, I'm doing great.
Yeah.
Had a great weekend. All of that. How was your weekend?
Good. Relaxing. The Union committed the worst act of homophobia I think they ever could have done by not scoring on Pride Night. But other than that, we're fine. We're good. We're good. Outside of the football, things are good. We should explain why there's not more of us. Chuck Booth is on assignment as per usual, doing more interesting things, covering Copa America's pitch problems or something. And Paul Catrino Jr. is a traitor and is now towing the company line because he apparently has a part-time gig. I don't even know if I'm supposed to, whatever. He has a part-time gig in team ops for the Philadelphia Union doing game day stuff. So him talking as loosely as we are probably about to about his now employer, obviously not a good look. So if you hear him on this podcast at any time in the immediate future, you're permitted to DM him sorry for your loss of a job. But yeah, just the two of us. And I'm sure Chuck will be back at some point soon enough.
Huh.
But honestly, he could have said anything. We'd probably been like, yeah, man, whatever you want.
Yeah, exactly.
I still hate that. I think Jeremy Raffanello and from what we saw of CJ Olney have been fine to. I think Raf actually played really well at times during his kind of hey, no one else is here. And I think it still sucks.
You want to start a couple games?
Yeah. You have to. Congratulations. And I still think it sucks that all those kids immediately get oh, thanks Jay for CJ Olney, and it's okay, this is. There's a lot of problems. Yes, the roster's too thin. Again, there's no impact players outside of 4 guys or whatever. Your schedule fatigue be damned. There was no way that playing in the Open Cup was going to make this any worse. That's not a valid excuse anymore.
Yeah.
It's just bad, and I don't want to take it out on these kids because that's not the problem. They can be fine. They can be very good players on the team. They can serve a purpose. But if you only have 5 guys that can do anything, you're screwed.
Yeah, it's one of those things I feel like Chuck and I talked about, hey, listen, when you play Miami, just don't lose by 5. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's fine. They figured out a way to make it worse and lose, on kind of the worst way you can. And then I thought, okay, going into Cincy, it was kind of the same thought, right? All right, just don't lose by 5. You know what I mean? And they figure out a way to make that one even worse by giving up a 98th minute winner to Lutro Costa of all people.
Yeah.
and then it's like, okay, can you like have a rebound against Charlotte? Like, can you
Right.
figure out how to like
Competitive game? No, nothing.
you know, yeah, and it's just
Someone show
like, all right,
something.
cool. Somehow, Ajiman
Yep.
somehow becomes a world beater and
Yep.
looks like the best player in MLS this year against
Well,
us.
you know what it is, Justin.
What is it?
Do you know who the general manager of Charlotte FC is?
I should, but I probably don't at the
Former
moment.
Philadelphia Union Academy director Tommy Wilson.
Oh, there you go.
And it was his first game in charge of them playing us, so of course
Yeah.
they
Of
get the
course,
win there.
Ajiman had to
They're
do
the
his thing.
points. Lovely,
Yeah.
lovely person. Yeah, well, and to the other point, like the guys that really care because they're adults that need this money to like support their families are on international duty,
Mm-hmm.
and like when and that's cynical, I guess. To not really have big veteran guys, other than I guess Ale, to help these kids get up for these games, the day of the games, like that's not helping, because they're gonna get a little bit starstruck by Messi. Obviously, we've talked about this for the last year or so, where
Mm-hmm.
it's the kids aren't going to be able to keep that out of their heads because no
Mm-hmm.
one in their right mind would be able to if you play against a guy like that. But then they come out and be really flat against Charlotte. Like, I don't know. Like, what else do you want? What do you need? What's the motivation?
Yeah, and unfortunately, the guys who should be your Jack Elliott's, your Jacob Glesnes, your
Right.
the guys that should be like towing the line or whatever
Even, and
are
I know, like,
not either.
it's hard to say that, like, Samuel should be the guy, but, like, he's a seasoned pro. Like, obviously, he
Yeah.
has more of a connection and more of a attachment to, like, Louisville City, I think, than the Union at this point. But it's not his first rodeo. Like, he should be able to kind
Yeah.
of be that type of guy, too. Yeah, so it's just such a weird, and like what, we're still only like 3 points out of a playoff spot with a game in hand or something like absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
That makes it all seem like, well, they're gonna get hot after everyone comes back from international duty, and then they're gonna make the playoffs, and we're gonna be like, all right, well, we're fine.
So, Evan, like here's the thing that I was like processing, thinking through, trying to figure out like
Sure.
how do I talk about this team, right?
Yeah.
I think the problem is there's three problems with this team right now.
Okay.
That are not the team, right?
Oh, sure.
you have to you can talk about Sugarman and like, okay, we get to the end of the Charlotte game and there's the sell the team chance and all of that kind of stuff, and obviously there's a problem there of like, hey, there probably should be some more money invested in this team if we're going to continue to compete at the MLS level because of the way that
Yes.
every other team is invested at this point. Like, we've got to invest more
Yep.
money, right? But
Yep.
that's not hey, we're going to fix this one in July with the transfer window open. Like, okay.
Right.
Yeah,
That's not
I mean,
let's bring in 7 guys, Chelsea style takeover,
right.
throw money at it right away. Yeah.
Right. You're not going to get your investment in your ownership group in July. You might, but
Correct.
you might get the investment,
Even then,
but
they're
you're not
going
going
to do
to get
anything until.
They're not going to turn around and dump a bunch of money in the team. They're going to wait till January and then they're going to dump a bunch of money in the team. So
Yep.
you're not going to. That's not going to really fix the problems for this year, right? So then your next problem is Ernst Tanner and who he's bringing in, and the fact that he's missed a lot lately on his scouting, recruiting, whatnot, the guys that he's provided Jim. He's obviously like, we don't have a super high depth squad. That could be on either Sugarman or Tanner. Who knows?
Right.
But, again, not a problem we're going to fix in July. It could be helped a little bit with a signing or two, but you're not going to, it's not going to be a Chelsea style. Let's 7 guys. So then your third problem is your coach. And you've got to figure out, okay, if there's guys on the field no matter who you have on the field, yes, you have people away for international duty. Yes, you have injuries with Blake. Yes, there are some things that are Carranza just got sold, and obviously the union aren't going to say, "Hey, no, we don't want money for him. We actually want to wait
Right.
till next year and not get anything
Right.
for him."
Right.
So, okay, yes, you've got some problems, but like as a coach, you've got to figure out, okay, how do I do something with the guys that I have on the
Mm-hmm.
field and
Mm-hmm.
somehow grind out some results some way, somehow. And that's just what's not happening right now. And you could
Right.
blame it on Sugarman, you can blame it on Tanner, but obviously Jim's got to deal with the guys that he has on the field. I think what I've
Mm-hmm.
appreciated in the last month is Jim seems to have an acknowledgement of all of that. That, okay, there
Yeah.
aren't guys, we didn't do a whole lot in the offseason to bring new guys in. We
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of guys who are going away for international duty. We probably didn't think about that as we put our roster together for this year.
Mm-hmm.
And now I don't have a whole lot of players, but it's still on me to get
Right.
my guys ready to go
Yeah.
and make sure that we
Yeah.
can stay competitive in this league no matter who the opponent is and who we have on the field. All that aside,
Um,
so like having said all that, it's like, how do you fix this right now? Like,
you
obviously Jim's
don't.
got to fix this in a week from now to figure out how to play this weekend against Montreal. You played them a month ago, so you know their style of play, and you
Yep.
got to figure out, I wouldn't call this a must-win game in the sense that we have to win it to make the playoffs, etc. But
No.
like
No. No.
it's a must-win game in the fact that you've got to break your streak at some point in time. Like, you've got to
Yeah.
get 3 points at some point, right?
Somewhere. You have to get a point somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not like what's sort of a double-edged sword with Montreal away being your next fixture is that it's Montreal away, which is historically a really bad fixture for your team,
Yep.
and a really physical and a really competitive game. And I guess the good news is they don't have Sam Piet, I don't think, or they shouldn't, because he'll be on international duty. But like, it's never a game that either team can really play their brand of soccer. I love your point about like, okay, if Jay sells the team, Ernst leaves, and Jim gets fired, that doesn't do anything right away. Like, and I mean, to the Chelsea point, it's a really great example of like, just because you do those things doesn't guarantee you anything.
Yep. Yep.
What I will say in like Jim's not defense, but like, what's two kind of grizzled MLS vets signing for not a ton of money gonna hurt this team? It won't. It would probably help things. But I think to your point about like the landscape of MLS, it's not so much that the ceiling has gotten so much higher, because I always think that like the Messi, the Benteke signings of the world are always going to be kind of outliers. I don't think everyone's going to be able to do that. But what you're seeing is the floor, and then kind of the Carranza adjacent signings after him have been guys that sign for big money that are forwards that come in and boss the league.
Mm-hmm.
Or even you look at what Atlanta did with Greek last name that I'm not going to be able to pronounce.
Yep.
Their new forward, so sorry. They bring him in for like, 7 or 8 from, Panathinaikos or wherever he was playing, and then they just sold him for 10 to Cruz Azul.
Yep.
So it's like you can flip guys the way that we've been kind of flipping guys in the next sort of salary bracket.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think anyone's talking about like, hey, we need to go. We can still do what we want to do with this buy low, sell high thing, but we can't have it be guys from like the second division in Denmark anymore. And optically, I feel bad because I don't think buying, speaking of Denmark, a club or stakes in a club is a bad idea. But when you're on a skid, it looks awful. Like if there was a way to do that and not say anything, they should have done it. So I can empathize from
for sure.
people that work at the club, like front office, social media team, always, forever, digital media team always forever, not, just because we know people that work in those offices personally, but like they don't make the decisions. Like getting mad at people on social media is a fine enough, I guess, okay, fine, way to vent, but like again, it doesn't do anything. And I think, and then
Right.
I'll shut up, but like if we were in a position like the Flyers where there wasn't really any expectations on us to perform, and now this pipeline's kind of like coming together, that would be one thing. But the problem is we're in this weird spot where, again, to your point, it's like, ooh, we didn't think about the amount of guys that just weren't going to be here for international duty when we were building this roster, and now we don't have any.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just this weird spot where it's like, okay, everyone was expecting us to finish at least comfortably in the playoffs, and now it's like, well, hold on, we're gonna have to work for this. And there's just no sign of like, oh, like Rafanella's having a breakout season, or Omi's gonna come up and do bits for us. And it's like, I guess the positive is our backup goalkeeper this year is better than Joe Bending.
I mean, that really is what it is. Like, you think about like kind of who your starters is, like who your actual starters are, who the people you think could start games are. Your left back is pretty much like, all right, Kai's starting. There's really no debate there. There's nobody else on the team who could, and he's still playing at a level.
It's a high level.
Kai's not a bad player. He's still playing at a level he can play. Right?
Yep.
But the problem is, then you move over to your center backs. Your center backs are all getting older. Like, they can't be playing every game all year long and maintaining the same level. And you have three kind of aging center back, and then you sent your young one who can play more time and could give you some good minutes. You sent him to the USL.
Yep.
So
again,
then you've got two right backs who are both okay, but like you have two of them now who
and then
you can't get both of them on the field at the same time.
At center back, like
yes, and
Nate's
and then you put one of them at center back.
Yeah, which he's been fine, but like, do you want that? Like,
yeah, is that your ideal lineup? Probably not.
He's got a great vertical, but he's not tall. Yeah, like,
and then your midfield. I have no idea what to do anymore. Like, you've got a six who used to be a world beater in this league who can't seem to find the field anymore.
Yep.
You've got Flock, who everybody kind of knows what Flock is at this point. He had kind of a breakout year, but then he's kind of evened out. You have Bedoya, who's aging. You have Bueno, who...
Bedoya, who's aged, Justin. It's...
Yes, you're right.
This is it. For as much as we know, this is what Leon Flock is. We know what we're getting from Alejandro Bedoya at this point. And again, if that man could come off the bench and play 30 minutes every week or whatever, great. But he can't, because we didn't think about that, and now we're
trying to patchwork it now with guys like Bueno, McGlynn playing on the wrong side of the field,
like
Quinn Sullivan, who
Sullivan,
it's just not there's not a starter there. You have McGlynn on the left side of the diamond, but like, who knows how much longer McGlynn's going to be here, and especially if he has a good showing at the Olympics.
Yes.
Is he here through the rest of the summer? Could there be a late August move from a club in the championship or something who needs a midfielder? Who knows?
That seems a little rushed, but I mean, it can happen. It's happened before.
But then, but I would think about like a guy like Fontana. Could he get a move to a second division in Serie B?
Right.
I don't know. It could be a weird situation like that just comes out. Who knows?
Is it too late? Like,
well, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what Chuck and I were talking about a couple of weeks ago. Either Fontana or could we get Pax on a loan?
Yeah. Have we breached the how long until they just go, fuck it, here's Kevin Sullivan?
I don't think we've I don't think we're too far from that.
I really don't think we're too far. Partly because, like, who else?
You could put him on the field against Montreal, and I don't think anybody would bat an eye at it. He's not playing
Honestly,
in
I
front of
think
the
it would
home
like
crowd.
it would curry you some social media favor at that point. You know,
Yeah.
Man City's
It's
official
just so
account would
hard.
be like, there he is.
It's just so hard because there's not an easy solution right now.
No.
So then it comes down to me about Jim. But then the other side on Jim for me is like, who else are you gonna get in the middle of the summer at this point in time?
Well,
Like, who's out there right
there's that
now?
too, where it's like, okay, do you want oh what's his name from the Quakes that just got? It's like none of the guys that are available that are on this continent like are going to inspire anything.
No.
Like because
No.
they've gotten fired because their team's like dead last in the West, and it's like you don't want that. Like
Yeah,
the
exactly.
good thing about what the Rapids did was they waited until the season was over, brought in Chris Armas, let everyone go Chris Armas, and now they're like fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Like they're not
Everybody had an off
good,
season to think about that
but
one,
like
figure it out.
they had an off season, they put it together, they brought in Stefan Halibut, like I don't know. And I mean they're not, firing on all cylinders like quivering in my boots playing the Rapids, but it's like there was a thought
Better
and
than
they
what we're
brought in
doing.
guys that yeah.
Better than what we're
Some
doing.
a wayward house for rejected U.S. men's national team former European move guys. Yeah, no, it's just it's just really like an unenviable position. And I think if you outside of a game day like sit and have a think about it, you can't. Like, I'd love to know what anyone else thinks that we can do at this point, other than burn it all down, move fucking Ryan Richter to interim, which I think collectively this podcast would lose their minds. And then in the summer you get Brendan Berg from Hartford Athletic, and like there's not like none of it makes any
Yeah.
sense to do right now.
No.
So don't do
No.
it unless you're gonna go crazy and put everyone that this podcast has talked to or knows personally in charge, and then I don't know. At least we're like, oh, look at that. But that probably wouldn't work either. But that's
Yeah.
fine. Oh, who knows?
I don't know. It's just hard. It's hard.
Yeah,
It's hard.
it sucks. It sucks. Get BJ Cowley in. Just do that.
Sounds like Nashville's trying, so.
Just don't, like, I really just don't want them to bring in, like, Gary Smith or, like, Caleb Porter or Jason Kreis. Like, I don't want, like, an MLS retread, and I'm really worried that, like, that's what would happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I think the only thing I'd be somewhat excited about is if they could pull Brendan from Hartford, but I don't know that Hartford's having a good enough season for me to enjoy that.
yeah, like, that's the other thing, too. It's, like, any of the, like Danny Cruz in Louisville City, I guess, is, like, an interesting idea. But, like, he's basically managing, like, Liverpool in USL. Like, and I mean, he sat at the right hand of John Hackworth for many years. So, like, I guess that's his philosophy.
And James O'Connor is his GM.
That's right.
Like, James O'Connor's his GM to be like,
yeah,
hey, who do you want? What can we do for your strategy? Let's think about this
there's
together.
That. Well, and they also have, I mean, if we're going that route, like, they also have the payroll in USL to do whatever they want.
Yes.
And he wouldn't necessarily be afforded that opportunity here. But I'm just thinking, like, there's no one in, like, American male club soccer. Maybe that's part of the problem. Hell, maybe we should look at NWSL, see if there's anyone there. There's no one where you're like, oh, if there's an MLS job that opens up, like, all these soccer nerds are going to want us to sign that guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it was Wilfred Nancy and when he was in Montreal. And, that happened, and that's going well. But there's not anyone like that where I'm like, oh, that's a fun one. So yeah, no, it's tricky.
Who knows, man? Well, we haven't seen a win since May 18th was the last time the Union won a game.
Welcome back to old school Philadelphia Union.
Seriously.
That'll be that'll be an easy way to thin people out if they were casual fans. Hey, you remember not winning for a month? Oh, you do? All right. Well, you're gonna stay here, so we got it.
I don't have anything else to talk about this team, and I don't want to bore people
I
to
got
death.
nothing,
So
Justin. If you want to stop, that's fine. Yeah. Um, any fun Euro picks? Do we got anything there?
not
No.
really.
Yeah.
I think I'm like, as much as I hate Real Madrid, I love Jude Bellingham, and I am
Yeah.
probably hoping that England wins the thing.
That'd be okay. That'd be okay. Austria game, very good tonight. That's all I got.
Yeah, very good day. Very good day today.
Very good day. Very good day for the Euros. Watch the Euros.
Yes. All right. At
At VFTBPod.
VFTBPod.
Yeah, let us know if you want us to hire anybody, and we'll pitch it. I guess we'll talk about it
Later.